Camille Jordan stood in the quiet first-class lounge of New York International Airport. She wore a black suit, sharp and clean. Her curly hair was tied back. She held a leather laptop bag and a boarding pass for Seat 1A, first class. The lounge was calm. Soft music played. Business travelers typed on laptops or sipped coffee. Camille sat near the window, checking emails on her phone. She looked relaxed but focused. Her company, J Tech Solutions, was growing fast, and she had meetings in San Francisco the next morning. Suddenly, a man in a navy blue airport uniform walked toward her. His name tag said Mark. He looked around the lounge and locked eyes with Camille. "Excuse me, Mom," he said, standing over her. "This area is for first-class passengers only." Camille looked up, confused. "Yes, I know. I'm flying first class." Mark frowned. "Can I see your ticket, please?" Camille showed her boarding pass. He barely glanced at it before asking, "And your ID too?" A few people turned to look. One man, a white businessman in a gray suit sitting across the room, smirked. Camille noticed, but said nothing. She pulled out her ID and handed it over. Mark looked at it for a long time. Too long. Finally, he gave it back, still frowning. "I just needed to be sure," he said, his tone cold. Camille kept her voice calm. "I understand. But I didn't see you check anyone else's ID." Mark didn't reply. He turned and walked away. The man in the gray suit laughed quietly and said loud enough to hear, "Maybe she wandered in by mistake." Camille stayed silent, but inside, something burned. 10 minutes later, it got worse. The gray suit man walked up to the counter to board early. The staff smiled and waved him through without asking anything. Camille stood up and approached next. But another staff member stepped in front of her. "Ma'am, economy is boarding later. Please wait for your group." Camille looked her straight in the eyes. "I'm in first class. Seat 1A. The woman blinked, surprised. "Oh, sorry." Camille showed her ticket again. This time, she didn't smile. Just then, a young woman nearby took out her phone and started recording. Camille walked down the jet bridge in silence. Her high heels clicked with every step. Behind her, she heard whispers. In her seat, she sat still, looking out the window. Her heart was calm now, but her mind was not. She had worked too hard, built too much, and climbed too high to be treated like this. She thought of her mother's words. "They'll judge you before they know you. Let your success do the talking." But sometimes, silence wasn't enough. The next day, a video spread across the internet. It showed Camille being questioned in the lounge, while others walked by without a glance. The caption read, "Black CEO asked for ID while white passenger walks through. Guess who's really first class?" The comments exploded. "This is why representation matters." She handled it with grace. "I'd be yelling, 'Do better, airlines.'" But Camille didn't comment. Not yet. She was planning something bigger. Camille sat alone in her hotel room that night. The city lights of San Francisco shone through the large glass windows. Her phone buzzed again. Another message, another tag, another comment on the video. It had gone viral. But Camille didn't smile. She wasn't proud. She was tired. She looked in the mirror. Her reflection stared back. A strong black woman in her early 30s, eyes sharp but heavy. She took off her jacket, sat down at the desk, and slowly opened an old wooden box. Inside were photos, letters, and a worn notebook. She pulled out a picture of her younger self, a teenage girl with big dreams and old shoes. The photo was taken outside a small house in Detroit. The porch had broken steps, and the windows were covered with plastic during winter. Camille's mother, Linda Jordan, worked 2 jobs. She cleaned offices at night and waitressed during the day. Camille's father had left when she was 6. Life had been hard. From the age of 12, Camille helped. She babysat kids after school, cleaned houses with her mom on weekends, and studied by candlelight when the power was out. Her teachers told her she was smart, too smart to stay poor, but they also warned her, "You'll have to work twice as hard to get half as far." She did. She graduated at the top of her class. She got into a state college, not because she had money, but because she had grit. While others went to parties, Camille worked in the campus library and delivered food on her bike to cover tuition. One night during college, Camille sat outside in the cold with a bag of leftover pizza. A man in a suit walked by and said, "You look too smart to be doing that." She looked up and said, "This is just temporary. I'm going to own my own company one day." He laughed and kept walking. That laugh stayed with her. After graduation, she applied to over 200 jobs. Most companies ignored her. Others said things like, "You're impressive, but not quite what we're looking for." One interviewer asked her, "How did you manage to attend college with your background?" Camille smiled and answered, "By working harder than you'll ever know." Still, rejection after rejection followed. So she stopped asking for a seat at their table. She decided to build her own. With $1,200 in savings, she started her company, J-Tech Solutions, from a small shared office. She had no investors, no rich friends, just her skills and an unbreakable will. The early days were brutal. Clients didn't take her seriously. Some assumed she was the secretary. Others said, "You don't look like a CEO." But Camille kept showing up. She learned fast. She worked late. She made no excuses. And slowly things changed. One client told another, then another. Within 5 years, her tech firm was partnering with major banks and hospitals. She hired smart people, especially women and people of color, because she knew how hard it was for them to get chances. Now, she was a millionaire. Her company had over 200 employees. She flew first class. She stayed in 5-star hotels. But still, they looked at her like she didn't belong. At the airport, she had kept quiet. She didn't want to make a scene. But now, watching that video spread across the internet, Camille knew something had to change. Not just for her, but for every woman like her. She looked at the photo of her younger self again. "You made it," she whispered, "but the fight's not over." She closed the wooden box and opened her laptop. Camille wasn't just a CEO. She was a voice now. And the world was finally listening. Camille didn't sleep much that night. She sat at her desk, reading comments, messages, and emails pouring in from all over the world. Some messages were from strangers who had never heard of her before, but now they called her brave. Others were from women and men who had faced the same kind of treatment. They shared their own stories. Some whispered in shame, others filled with anger. One woman wrote, "They told me to dress more professional when I showed up to a board meeting. I was the CEO." Camille read each one slowly. Her chest felt heavy. But one message stood out. It was from a young black girl, no older than 16. She wrote, "I saw what they did to you at the airport. I've been scared to dream big because I thought people like us would never be accepted. But now, I'm not scared anymore. Thank you." Camille stared at the screen. Her hands trembled slightly. This wasn't just about an airport lounge anymore. It was about something much bigger. She opened her social media account. She had never used it for anything personal before, only for business. But tonight was different. She clicked New Post. Then she uploaded the 42-second video clip taken by a stranger in the airport lounge. The video showed her being asked for ID while the white male passenger was waved through without question. She added one sentence as the caption. "I was flying first class, but they didn't believe me. Still think racism is not real." She hit post, and then the storm began. The first hour. At first, just a few people saw it. Then a few thousand. Then millions. Within 60 minutes, hashtag Camilla Jordan and hashtag First Class While Black were trending worldwide. Journalists began calling her. TV shows requested interviews. Influencers started reposting the video. Celebrities commented. But Camille didn't respond to any of them. Instead, she met with her team. The meeting at J-Tech. Camille sat at the head of the table in her office. Her leadership team, 5 women, 3 men, all from different backgrounds, looked at her with concern and curiosity. She took a deep breath. "We're not just a tech company anymore," she said. "We're going to be a voice, a shield, a change." They looked at her, unsure what she meant. She stood and walked over to the whiteboard. "I want to build a platform, a place where people can report discrimination in real time, safely, anonymously if needed, with real action behind it." Her CTO, Maya, leaned forward. "You mean like a reporting tool?" "More than that," Camille said. "A full system, video uploads, AI filters, legal resources, data tracking, and a human team behind it. Real people to guide the victims, step by step." The room went quiet. Camille looked at all of them. "We've built apps that helped banks and hospitals. Now let's build something that helps people." Everyone nodded slowly. Then Maya said, "Let's do it." The airline responds. By the afternoon, the airline issued a public statement. They said, "We regret the incident involving Ms. Camille Jordan. We are reviewing our staff's actions and will ensure proper training moving forward." Camille read it. No apology, no names, no responsibility. She closed her laptop. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The man in the gray suit. The internet did its job. Within hours, people identified the white man from the video, the one who had smirked at Camille and joked about her wandering in by mistake. He wasn't just a random passenger. He was a regional operations manager for the same airline. His LinkedIn profile disappeared quickly after that. But it was too late. Screenshots spread like wildfire. A new fire had started, and this time, Camille didn't need to say a word. The phone call. That evening, her phone rang. The number was private. She let it ring. Then it rang again. She picked up. "Ms. Jordan," a voice said. "This is Thomas Gale, Senior Vice President at Apex Airlines. I'd like to speak with you. Privately." Camille kept her voice calm. "No, thank you." "Please," he said, "we'd like to offer compensation for your experience. Maybe discuss how we can make things right." Camille smiled coldly. "You had your chance. I'm not looking for a check. I'm building something you can't buy your way out of." She ended the call. That night, Camille stood on her hotel balcony, looking out over the lights. Her post had reached 10 million views, but she didn't feel satisfied. Not yet. She was thinking about the girl who wrote to her, about the mothers who worked 2 jobs, about all the people treated like they didn't belong. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was a movement, and she was just getting started. Camille Jordan walked into the J-Tech headquarters the next morning wearing a white suit and calm expression, but her mind was racing with fire. The lobby was buzzing. Staff members whispered as she passed. Some clapped quietly. Others nodded with quiet pride. Everyone had seen the video. Everyone knew the story. Inside the boardroom, her leadership team was waiting. Maya, her CTO, was scrolling through news headlines on her tablet. CNN, BBC, Forbes. "You're everywhere, Camille," Maya said. Camille sat down slowly. "I didn't want to be everywhere," she said, "but now that I am, let's use it." She tapped the table. "I'm building something that lasts. Not just a moment. A movement. The vision." Camille stood in front of the whiteboard and picked up a marker. She wrote one word in big, bold letters. EQUALIS. "That's the name," she said. "Our new platform." The team leaned in, curious. Camille continued. "Equalis will be the first real-time reporting tool for workplace and public discrimination. But it won't stop there. We'll use machine learning to track patterns. We'll partner with civil rights lawyers, mental health counselors, even journalists." Her voice grew stronger. People will finally have a place to go when they're silenced, when they're dismissed, when they're told it's not a big deal. Maya smiled. This is big. Camille nodded. It's huge. But we have the team. We have the tech. And now, we have the spotlight. The employees rally. Later that day, Camille called a full company meeting. Hundreds of employees gathered in the main hall. Some stood. Some sat on the floor. All watched her closely. She stood on the small stage and looked around at the faces. Some of you know why I started this company, she said. But many of you don't. I was tired of knocking on doors that would never open for people like me. So I built my own door, and I let others walk through it. The room was silent. But something happened this week. Something that reminded me that no matter how far we climb, some people still see us the same way, like we don't belong. She paused, letting the words land. I'm done staying quiet. We're building Equalis, and I want all of you to be part of it. The crowd erupted in applause. A young intern wiped her eyes. A middle-aged engineer whispered, "It's about time." Meanwhile, at Apex Airlines, the news kept getting worse for Apex Airlines. Inside their corporate tower, executives were in full panic mode. The man in the video, the gray suit passenger, was officially suspended. But that wasn't enough. Protests had started outside some of their offices. Shareholders were angry. Sponsors threatened to pull out. Then, a bombshell dropped. A former flight attendant shared her own story online. She said she had been told to watch certain passengers more closely based on how they looked. Her post gained traction fast. Then another employee came forward. And another. And another. The airline tried to hide it, but the truth was flooding out. Back at JTech, Camille's legal team gathered in a small conference room. They had printed documents, emails, statements. Some were tips sent anonymously from inside Apex Airlines. They found clear patterns of discrimination, hiring bias, complaint cover-ups, internal reports that had been ignored. Camille reviewed everything. Her hands were steady. We're not just building Equalis, she said. We're exposing them. Her lawyer looked up. You want to go public with all this? Camille nodded. Yes, but not just in a tweet. We hold a press conference. We tell the full story. The email that broke the silence. As the Equalis project quietly launched behind the scenes, Camille received an email late one night. It was from a woman named Angela Voss. She was a former HR manager at Apex Airlines. Her message was short but powerful. I watched the video. I saw what they did. I tried to stop this from the inside, but they shut me down. I have documents. I'm ready to talk. If you'll listen. Camille replied instantly. Let's talk. The plan moves forward. With Angela's help, Camille and her legal team began building a full case against Apex Airlines, not just for her experience, but for years of ignored discrimination. Every new piece of evidence fueled Camille's mission. She worked day and night with her tech team to build Equalis while preparing for a public battle. Some advisors warned her to be careful. You're a CEO, one said. Don't burn bridges. Camille smiled. They burned the bridge when they told me I didn't belong on it. The storm is coming. As the week came to a close, Camille looked at a wall of headlines printed on paper and taped to her office wall. Black CEO stands UP to airline giant. DSCURIMNINATIONP Lightform. EQUALIS to launch nationwide. EMP Lois EXPOS is ways. EMIC bias. Inside APEX Airlines. She turned to Maya. Are we ready? Maya nodded. The app is in beta. The press conference is scheduled. Legal is tight. Camille took a deep breath. Good. Then let's shake the world. Apex Airlines was in crisis. Inside their glass tower in New York, the boardroom was filled with red eyes, cold coffee, and tense whispers. Executives sat around the long marble table, their expensive suits unable to hide their fear. On the giant screen, Camille Jordan's press conference was playing. She stood tall, confident, powerful. "This isn't just about me," she said. "It's about every person who was made to feel small, made to feel invisible, made to feel like they didn't belong. Today, we launch Equalus, a platform where silence ends." The room went quiet. Then the CEO of Apex Airlines, Richard Vail, slammed his hand on the table. "This is a disaster," he snapped. "Every hour we stay quiet, we bleed." The scramble begins. The public was furious. More airline customers came forward with their own stories, some recent, some dating back years. Videos and complaints surfaced on social media. TV anchors replayed Camille's speech on loop. Celebrities endorsed Equalus. Human rights groups applauded her bravery. Civil rights lawyers offered free support. Apex's stock dropped 9% in one day. The company called a PR firm. Then two. Then three. But none could stop the wave. "Offer her a private settlement," Vail said. "Make this go away." But Camille refused. "I don't want money," she told reporters. "I want accountability." Internal war. Behind the scenes, the airline was falling apart. Some board members blamed Vail. Others blamed the staff. The man from the video, the gray suit manager, was fired quietly, but it wasn't enough. Then, an even bigger problem hit them. Angela Voss, the former HR manager who had emailed Camille, shared documents with the press. She released emails showing how complaints from employees were buried. In one message, a director wrote, "Just make this go away. We can't afford another diversity scandal." The internet exploded. #FireVail. #JusticeForCamille. #Boycott Apex. People began canceling flights. Protesters appeared outside Apex offices with signs. "We belong here, and first class doesn't mean second-class citizens." Meanwhile, at JTech, Camille was calm, but focused. She and Maya reviewed daily updates from the Equalus development team. Within 3 days of the press conference, the beta app had 90,000 downloads. People were submitting stories. Stories of racism, ageism, sexism, workplace bullying, bias from banks, hospitals, schools, airports. Equalus wasn't just a tool now. It was a movement. Camille hired more moderators, more lawyers, more outreach experts. She expanded her tech team and created a new branch of JTech solely for Equalus. But even as things grew, she kept her message simple. "We don't want revenge. We want respect." The call for resignation. Back at Apex Airlines, the pressure reached a breaking point. News channels revealed leaked recordings of company meetings where executives laughed off diversity efforts and blamed woke culture for bad press. Investors pulled out. Major partners, including a global credit card company, announced they were reviewing contracts. Then, on a cold Thursday morning, the news hit. Richard Vail resigned. He gave a short statement. "I am stepping down for the good of the company. I regret the pain caused to our customers, employees, and the public." Camille watched the announcement from her office. She didn't smile. She simply nodded. One storm had passed, but the work wasn't over. An unexpected message. That evening, Camille received a voicemail from someone unexpected. It was from Marcia Ellis, the flight lounge worker who had questioned her ID at the airport. Her voice was shaking. "Ms. Jordan, I didn't mean to hurt you. I was following policy. I didn't realize how wrong I was until I saw myself on that video. I lost my job. People are threatening me. I'm scared." Camille listened carefully. She closed her eyes. This wasn't easy. She had every reason to be angry, but she also believed in second chances. Camille called her back. "Marcia," she said softly, "I'm not here to destroy lives. I'm here to change a system. If you're willing to help fix it, maybe there's a place for you." There was silence on the other end. Then tears. "Thank you," Marcia whispered. "The bigger picture." By the end of the week, Equalus hit 200,000 users. 3 more major companies were exposed through user reports. Camille was invited to speak at the UN Human Rights Forum, but she didn't let it change her. She still ate lunch in the office kitchen with her team. She still answered emails herself. She still remembered the little girl from Detroit who studied under candlelight. One of her employees asked, "How do you stay so grounded?" Camille smiled. "Because the world still has too many locked doors, and I'm just getting started with the keys." 1 week after the press conference, Camille Jordan stood alone on the rooftop of her company building. The city lights stretched out beneath her like stars scattered across the ground. Equalus had passed 500,000 users. Every hour, new reports came in. From all over the world: India, South Africa, Brazil, even small towns in the U.S. Stories of being passed over, spoken down to, mistreated, erased. Camille had created a storm. But what came next would define the future. A new offer. Her assistant knocked on the office door that morning. "Camille, someone's here to see you. Says it's urgent." Camille walked into the conference room and froze. Sitting at the table was Grace Lin, CEO of a global media company, WorldCore News. She stood and shook Camille's hand. Her grip was firm, her eyes sharp. "I'm not here to do a story," Grace said. "I'm here to partner with you." Camille raised an eyebrow. Grace opened her briefcase and slid a folder across the table. "We want to integrate Equalus reports into our global platform. Verified reports from users, made public with permission. Stories that matter. Truths the world needs to see." Camille read through the proposal. It was bold, transparent, powerful. "What's the catch?" she asked. "No catch," Grace replied. "We don't want to silence pain. We want to broadcast courage." Camille smiled slowly. "I think we can work together." From app to action. The deal changed everything. Within days, Equalus wasn't just an app, it was a global voice. People began to see real consequences. A hospital in Ohio was forced to fire a racist supervisor after a nurse's story went viral. A tech company in Germany was exposed for hiring discrimination. Within hours, they lost 2 major clients. A school in France apologized to a black student after Equalus users flooded their email inbox with messages demanding justice. Equalus had become a sword and shield. It was helping people fight. And it was helping others heal. Camille's mission expands. Camille gathered her leadership team. She stood at the head of the room, holding a whiteboard marker. "We started with reports," she said. "Now we're going further." She drew a circle on the board and wrote, "Educate, HEAL, protect." "We're launching 3 new arms of Equalus," she said. 1. A training program for companies, real training, not just a slideshow. 2. A trauma support line, staffed by real counselors. 3. A legal path system, where we connect victims with trusted attorneys. Maya looked stunned. "That's massive." Camille nodded. "Yes, but the world needs massive." Meanwhile, inside Apex Airlines, not everyone had moved on. Apex Airlines had a new interim CEO, Nathan Bryce. He stood in a dark office, flipping through a file filled with Equalus reports that named Apex. He was angry, but not at Camille. He was angry at the truth. "We did this to ourselves," he admitted in a board meeting. "She just showed the world." The board members were silent. Then Bryce said something unexpected. "We're going to fix it, and we're going to start by meeting with Camille Jordan herself." The room gasped. One executive asked, "You want her to forgive us?" Bryce shook his head. "I want her to teach us." An unlikely meeting. Camille received the invitation in an official letter. "We would be honored to meet with you and discuss real change." At first, she wanted to say no. She remembered the cold stare of the airline staff, the smirk of the gray suit man. the way they treated her like a trespasser. But this was her chance to do what Equalist stood for, not just expose injustice, but transform it. She agreed. The day of the meeting. The conference room was quiet. Camille walked in wearing black, simple, strong, graceful. Across the table sat Apex Airlines' new leadership. No cameras, no reporters, just decision-makers and truth. Nathan Bryce stood up and spoke first. "Ms. Jordan, we didn't just mishandle a situation. We've been blind, arrogant, and it hurt real people." Camille listened. "We're not asking for a clean slate. We're asking for guidance." Then he slid a folder across the table. Inside was a draft of Apex Equal Access, a full internal transformation plan, reviewed and shaped by civil rights leaders and anti-discrimination experts. Camille flipped through the pages. Then she looked up. "If you want real change," she said, "you'll have to let go of ego, of shortcuts, of fear." Bryce nodded. "We already have. A quiet victory." Later that evening, Camille didn't post about the meeting. She didn't tweet or talk to reporters. Instead, she walked into the Equalist team lounge, sat on the floor beside her staff, and ate pizza with them. They laughed. They worked late. They reviewed new stories. Camille leaned back against the wall, watching them. She had fought the system, and now the system was starting to shift. One voice had started it, but millions were rising. 1 year later, Camille Jordan stood on the stage of the Global Equality Summit in Geneva. Behind her, a giant screen displayed 3 simple words: dignity, truth, power. She wore the same white suit from the day of her airport humiliation, but this time, she stood in front of thousands, not alone in a lounge. The crowd rose to their feet. A standing ovation thundered through the hall. Activists, leaders, workers, survivors, people from every walk of life. Camille stepped forward. "This," she said softly, started with a question. "A woman at an airport asked me, 'Are you sure this ticket is yours?'" The room fell silent. She didn't just doubt my name. She doubted my place, my worth, my right to belong. Her voice grew stronger. "But instead of shouting back, I built something that speaks louder than anger. I built Equalist, the movement that changed everything." In the years since its launch, Equalist had become one of the most downloaded apps in the world. Over 15 million people had shared their stories. It had grown into 3 powerful branches. Equalist Voice, where stories were shared, verified, and protected. Equalist Legal, which had helped over 40,000 people access justice. Equalist Care, which gave free trauma support and healing to those suffering silently. Governments, schools, airlines, banks, tech firms, hundreds of companies had joined Equalist training and transformation programs. Even Apex Airlines, once the symbol of public failure, now used Equalist tools for hiring, training, and customer service. Their public apology, shaped by Camille herself, had gone viral for its honesty. One post read, "We once asked Camille Jordan if she belonged here. Now we ask her to lead us forward." The girl from Detroit. Camille never forgot where she came from. One day, she returned to her old neighborhood in Detroit. The broken sidewalks, the corner store, the house with the leaky roof. There, in a small community center, she launched a new scholarship program, the Jordan Initiative, giving young girls of color the tools to lead, build, and speak. She told them, "Don't just sit at the table, build your own table, then open the door for others." A surprise letter. One afternoon, Camille received a handwritten letter. It was from Marcia, the airport lounge worker who had once doubted her. Inside, Marcia had written, "Thank you for choosing grace over revenge. I now work for a nonprofit that helps train frontline workers on bias and respect. I tell them your story every time. I tell them how I failed, and how you gave me a second chance." Camille held the letter close. She smiled. This was legacy. One final speech. At the Global Summit, Camille ended her speech with a message not just for the crowd, but for the world. You may feel small. You may feel invisible. Like the world doesn't see you. But I see you, and I built this platform for you. She paused. Never let them tell you that you don't belong. Never let them silence your truth. Because your story might be the one that saves someone else. The hall exploded in applause. Tears flowed freely. Even the camera crews stopped filming for a moment to simply feel the power in the room. Legacy in motion. As the event ended, Camille didn't wait for fame. She didn't go to the red carpet or do another TV interview. Instead, she walked out the back door, stepped into a black car, and opened her laptop. A new Equalist report had just come in from a small town in Asia where a teacher had been fired unfairly for standing up against school discrimination. Camille read it carefully. Then she called her team. "Let's get this into action," she said. She was still fighting, still building, still lifting voices the world tried to ignore. In the end, Camille Jordan didn't just become a symbol. She became a spark. Not because she shouted the loudest, but because she chose power over pride, truth over silence, and grace over hate. Her legacy wasn't just her company. It was the millions of voices she helped the world finally hear. Camille Jordan had changed the world. But change, no matter how powerful, always makes someone uncomfortable. Not everyone wanted a world where voices could rise freely. Whispers in the dark. Somewhere in a private boardroom, 10 powerful men sat in silence. They represented old systems, wealth, politics, global business. One man slammed his fist on the table. "She's making people afraid of us," he growled. "She's destroying what we built." Another leaned forward, his voice cold. "Equalist isn't just a tool, it's a weapon. And she's pointing it at everyone who ever played the game by different rules." They didn't see justice. They saw danger. They didn't see healing. They saw control slipping away. And so they began to move, quietly, behind closed doors. Sudden attacks. Within weeks, Camille noticed strange things happening. Equalist servers faced multiple cyber attacks from unknown locations. News outlets suddenly began publishing false stories about her past. One article even claimed she had faked the airport incident for fame. Her team worked day and night to control the damage. Camille stayed calm, but the weight began to grow. Threats appeared in her email. Letters came to her home. One night, her assistant rushed into her office. "Camille, there's a report. Someone's offering money for insider data from our system." Camille stood still. They weren't just trying to silence her now. They were trying to destroy everything Equalist stood for. The breaking point. At a press event, a reporter asked sharply, "Ms. Jordan, some say you're creating division with Equalist, that you're making companies afraid to speak or act. How do you respond?" Camille paused. Then she answered in a calm, clear voice. "Accountability isn't division. Truth isn't chaos. And fear doesn't come from Equalist. It comes from people who don't want to change." But after the event, she sat alone in her office, her head in her hands. Maya entered quietly. "You okay?" Camille didn't answer for a while. Then she whispered, "I knew this wouldn't be easy, but I didn't know it would hurt this much." A light in the storm. The next morning, Camille woke up to find something unexpected. Thousands of messages, emails, posts, comments. People from across the world had seen the lies, and they stood up for her. One message read, "They tried to shut you down, Camille, but we're louder now. We're with you, always." Another was a video from the girl in Detroit who had received Camille's scholarship. She said, "They tried to break her, but she gave me strength. So now I speak too." Camille wiped her tears. She stood up, walked to the mirror, and looked at herself. Tired eyes, strong shoulders, fire still burning. "They're not afraid of Equalist," she said softly. They're afraid of what happens when we're no longer afraid of them. The circle grows. Camille called an emergency meeting. "I know we're under attack," she told her team. "But we don't fight fire with fire. We fight it with truth, with people, with unity." She launched a new global campaign, Equalist Defenders, volunteers trained to help users stay safe, report faster, and protect their voices online. Thousands joined in days. Cybersecurity experts offered free help. Tech companies offered stronger servers. Even former enemies reached out to help protect Equalists. Because the world had changed. And this time, Camille wasn't fighting alone. In the end, they tried to bury her in lies. They tried to crash her system. They tried to scare her into silence. But Camille Jordan didn't stop. Because she didn't just build an app. She built an army of truth. And truth, once spoken by millions, cannot be undone.